How's it going? This is the ground screw drill. This is what you'll be renting along with the bar, and you'll be getting the screws and then the saddles you need. If you're going off the saddle with a 6x6 post for anything elevated, you can get away with these. If you're doing a beam that you need perfectly level, then you'll be using the adjustable saddles so that you can get it exactly to the height you need. For this, we'll just be using these for now for the example. So the first thing we do is we take the bar, and I always make a little hole right on the center. Just helps get the screw lined up easier. And then you just take the screw, line it up just behind the hole, and put it down. That way, once everything is set up, you can just lift up the screw and it should fall into the hole. And then once the drill and everything is on top, you just kind of set it right where you want it. So we put the screw down, take the drive shaft. It's got notches to fit inside the screw. Take the drill. Set it in. And then you're essentially set up and ready to go. You want a thick extension cord. We should be supplying them later. Screw it in, make sure you got juice. Good. Okay. If you come over here, there is a switch that changes from first gear to second gear. You always want to start in second gear. It won't always go in easy. See, it won't go. That's common. You need to just give it a little bit of juice and then slowly spin it, and then it lets the gears align, and now we're in second. So you start in second. If the ground gets too hard and the drill will shut itself off, then you can switch it to, you got to stop, and then you can switch it back to first gear. That'll give it more power to finish sinking the screw all the way down. So you always start in second. And you get your ladder. Set it up. You want to get pretty close, just like about that. Make sure it's good and sturdy. And then you're ready for the person to pick the drill up. So then your helper will help you lift the drill up. You'll be on top of the ladder. You'll receive the drill. You'll hold it there. At that point, you'll take the extension arm. This is what takes the force of the torque, because you'd never be able to hold it. Now, because there's a fence here, we could use the fence as the support to take the leverage, but you don't want to put it on a fence board. You want to make sure you hit a post. So if you're somewhere where there is nothing, like a tree, a car tire, the foundation of a house, a big rock or something that would take the force, then we use that bar. So we know it'll be somewhere around here, but we drive that in after. So once we pick it up, the helper will stick the pole on, see where it's extended and laying, and then you take the bar and a sledgehammer and you'll stick it into the ground, give it a couple sledgehammer whacks until it's about down to the thicker part, about 6-8 inches or so. And then it'll be ready to take the force of the drill as it puts the screw in. So we'll pause from there, set up the camera, and we'll let you see how it goes from there. So real quick, that's the telescopic aluminum arm that takes the tension. That's the cam drive unit right here that fits into the screw. This is a little level bubble that doesn't really work, but you can use it to get you pretty close to the ballpark. This is your first and second gears. That's the little trigger and the button that locks it in place. And then your forward and reverse is there. And that's it for the drill. Okay, if you're set up and ready to go and it's on the wrong side of the pole, the worst thing that's going to happen is this. Let go of the trigger before it keeps swinging. As you see, it doesn't go very fast. It will take something out or hurt you if you get pinned between a fence and it. But if you start it here and you want to walk it up to the thing, put it in forwards, and you just don't want to push the trigger. You don't want to do this. Okay, that's not good for it. So if you're going to do it, if let's say it's off a little bit, count to 5. Once it's all done moving, put it in forwards and give it a little bit of love. Let go. Because if you were to push it right at this point where it's undoing the pressure, that's when you'll shed the gears. Once it's tight, you're good to go. Okay, so now you can just leave it. Once you get down to the thread, you can't really move it anymore, and it just starts going down itself. But one thing with this is that bar, as the drill goes down, that bar wants to push it this way. So until you get the threads in the ground, you've got to keep giving it a little bit of love that way, because that arm wants to push it that way. So once you're down this far, you'll be good. Now you just let it go. And then we've got the wood here taking the pressure. Otherwise, you'll scratch up all the aluminum and then it won't go in and out. You can see how it's retracting in. Now you just watch. Whenever you turn off the drill, you want to count to 5 to make sure all the gears realign. Even if you accidentally push the button and your finger slips off, just wait until nothing's moving. Once it's done moving, you can do it again. So I could hear, I'll put it back on and you'll hear how the drill is struggling more than it was in the very beginning. But still going down. If I want to switch it to first gear, if the drill does stop itself, see how it unpressurizes? Now you could push it again. Now I'll put it in the first. It's not going, so I'll give it a little bit of love. And then it lets me put it in the first. Now I'll continue in first gear, and this is the button. Once you press the trigger in, you can lock it in place and let go and have a coffee.
But it's done, right?
I like to sink it down to about that far, and then you stop it. You can hear it kind of unwind, and then you can put it back in the second. That time it went right in. And then if you want to reverse it, you just put it into reverse with this switch, push the button, and you got to make sure your arm has something to base on. So we're good, we're on the post. And then otherwise you'd have to pick the arm up.
Put it on the other side.
and just move it to the other side. Now it'll come out of the ground if you put it in the wrong spot. All right, you don't want to forget it's going because it'll just keep going in the ground and then it'll disconnect itself and then wreck the main can drive. So you always just have a coffee, but still watch it. If you feel like this is pushing too much, you can always lift it up a little bit to make sure it's not pressured digging into the ground. And if you think that it's going to push your stick over, it doesn't take a lot of force to just move it with the leverage of the pole. So if you're nervous, just hang on to it for a couple minutes and you'll be fine, but it's not a big deal. Don't worry about how level the post is. You want to get it as level as possible. But if the post isn't perfectly level going down, it's not the end of the world. You'll be able to level it with the saddle and the shims underneath the saddle. So don't, as long as you're within the ballpark. And this bar is slowly moving more and more. So if it gets away from you, it moves slowly. So just run and turn it off. But again, it's not hard to just push this forward and hold the tension until it's done. Okay, here I'm just showing you that we have switched it to first by wiggling the trigger just a little bit so it could get into gear. And then we've moved it to the fence post just to show that you can use something else. So here's a scenario where we were watching it, it was starting to push the post over, the ground is really soft, and it came off the wood and started working up the beam. So we'll just put a little more. Post in, set that back up there, then turn it back on, press it up against. Continue going. If it sounds like it's struggling a bit, which it kind of does now, I'm just going to stop it. Wait for the tension off. A good rule is to count to 5. It's not going in the first. Give it a little bit of love. A little bit more. In the first. Back on. Doesn't sound like it's struggling as much. It goes a little slower, but you prevent damaging the drill potentially. Again, it does have a safety off switch built into it that in second gear, if it builds up too much pressure, it'll turn itself off. So if that happens, switch it to first and keep going the rest of the way. If you hit a rock or something and it'll stop going down, if you're about this far, it's your call, but you can just stop it and you sawzall off the bottom of the pipe at the height you want, and you can still drop the saddle on top. If you notice the post keeps coming up, just keep an eye on that. The higher this goes, the more leverage it'll have to push this over. So just keep an eye on it and just step it down. Okay, that took us 47 minutes to do. Now just walk around. And that's your finish, and you just slide the saddles on top. And then what we do is we just get self-tappers, and you just put 2 or 4, whatever you want, self-tappers into the side steel there, and that thing ain't going nowhere. And then you're done. Now you just frame. If you need to adjust them a little more, just reset up and put it in a little deeper. And again, in the beginning when it's up high, if it's not going into the ground right away, you might have to pull down on it or put a little bit of your body weight on it until the screws grab the ground, and then at that point it'll just feed itself right down.